and any kind of question. That's a lot larger than I expected it to be. And so, if you have any questions at all, I am the person who can answer them. I wrote it all. So, if you don't know what BookFunnel is, if you're just in here like, hey, I love beginner book marketing, I dig those talks, then the BookFunnel, we started off as an ebook delivery service so that we deliver ebooks to readers, directly to readers' devices. So no matter what they have in their hand, Kindle, Kobo, iPhone, iPad, Android, doesn't matter. BookFunnel is platform agnostic. We deliver to all of those devices, which is not true for any of the stores that you sell at. If you sell your book on Kobo, then it's only going to go to Kobo devices and Kobo readers. So the nice thing is that if for BookFunnel, if you give somebody a book and deliver it through BookFunnel, we don't care what they have. We're going to help them. Since starting, we've added tons of features. We now do audiobook delivery, digital direct sales fulfillment. I have a talk immediately following this one about direct sales, Kickstarter, Patreon fulfillment, all kinds of things. But I don't want to talk too much about that. What I do want to talk about is why you need a funnel. You don't have to call it that, but that's what the marketing people call it. I am not a marketing person. I'm an engineering guy, but that's what the marketing people call it, so we're going to go with that. And the reason is that you need a plan for your author career. How are you going to be making money, and how are you going to sustain yourself long term as an author? And we want to build the funnel. We want to get your funnel built starting off from the very beginning, so that every person who comes into the top is guided down to the bottom and buys your books. So how do you do that? With marketing. Raise your hand if you love marketing. You're liars. Everyone hates it. Everyone hates it. We really do. Like most, except for marketing people, right? Which, again, I've told you, I am not. I'm an engineering guy. I don't even know really how to do marketing all that well. What I'm teaching you here is what our most successful authors on BookFunnel are doing that has helped them build a career. This is not I published a fantasy trilogy about 6 or 7 years ago. It did not sell well. I would not look at my experience in that part as an example of how to build a funnel. I didn't actually do any marketing. I was like, surely if I just put the books out there, they're going to sell themselves. But a great marketer with a mediocre book is going to outsell a great writer with no marketing every time. So then the question is, do you have to? Yes, you have to. You need a fan base. If you plan to be in this for the long haul, right? If you're writing a memoir and all you really want to do is put that book out so that some people might read it and your family can read it later after you're gone, maybe you don't need a funnel, and maybe you could go find one of the other talks and then this one isn't useful to you. But if you plan to be an author for the long haul, if you plan to be the authors that are still around today, I published my first book in 2011, right? So I'm practically ancient in the industry. The authors that were publishing then that are still publishing today figured out how to make a fan base and keep them happy and keep delivering great product to them. So, what is the best way to market? Cat pictures. Actually, that's not true. That's not a bad way to market. Let me tell you, this is actually my cat. This is Colby Jack, and his tongue is always like that. You're in luck, writers. The best way to market books is with stories, which is good because you're all writers. Hooray! So what I want you to know is that marketing is a numbers game, and I've created this wonderful little image to display and let you see. Over on the left, we have fewer people at the top, and then we have fewer people at the bottom. And over on the right, we have more people at the top, and then we have more people at the bottom. Are we clear? So it's a numbers game. Not every reader who reads your book is going to fall in love with you, right? They're not going to fall in love and become a super fan. I have a quick question for the room. How many people in this room are readers? Right? It's usually pretty rare to meet a reader an author who didn't start off as a reader somewhere. The word superfan implies somebody who is going to buy your books forever and ever, amen, until the day you die or stop publishing. Hopefully, well, I don't know, some authors are still publishing and they're dead. But presumably until you stop publishing. Think of that word. How many of you have an author for you that you are a superfan? The minute they publish a book, you're going to buy it. It doesn't matter what it is, right? We all have those. And that's what we want. As authors, we want to find those people, but it is not going to be 100% of the people that come in the top that come out the bottom and end up becoming fans of our work and then ultimately super fans. So what we're talking about here is beginner level marketing stuff. We're not talking about running ads and things that are going to cost a lot of money. We're actually talking about things that are going to be really, really cost effective. And in fact, for like the first, I'll show you briefly what we're going to talk about. But if you look at all these things, until we get down to step 7, which is where you're going to get a BookFunnel account, that's the one self-serving part of this talk. But the rest of it all is all free. This is all stuff that is not gonna, it's not free in that it costs nothing. It's going to take some of your time, but it is not going to cost you a lot of money to get started and get set up with some of this stuff. So this is the plan of action. If you see that link up there, sorry, I got ahead of myself because we were running a few minutes late. The link up at the top there, which is bookfunnel.com/20booksvegas, that page has a link to all of my slides. It has a link to this plan of action checklist that you can download as a PDF to kind of know where you are in your journey. And it also has a coupon to sign up for BookFunnel, and we're going to get to that in just a little bit. So, extra credit work, if you get through all of that stuff and you're feeling very ambitious, these are some extra credit things that you can start working on once you get through that first checklist. I would encourage you to go in order. Let's not skip ahead. Because this stuff is getting a little deeper, and if you haven't finished that first set of stuff, then you don't want to spend a lot of time on this. So we talk about this thing called a reader magnet, and it's one of the first steps that we're going to talk about, and that is, you'll hear me use the two terms, reader magnets and lead magnets. And in the industry, you'll hear both of them. A lead magnet is more of a marketing term. A reader magnet was a term that the industry created that is more specific to readers. And it usually means something that is going to entice a reader, as opposed to a lead magnet, which is just a general purpose. Hey, here's a thing that you might like, random person in the world. So when we talk about those, to me, and my distinction is that a reader magnet is going to be for somebody who's already read your books, somebody who's already read at least one of your books. So it's drawing a reader to subscribe to your mailing list after reading one of your books, meaning that they are already a reader of your work. Maybe not a fan yet, but that's what we're going to move them on down that line and move them closer towards. But they've already taken the first step down that journey, which is they are a reader. So it's a better call to action at the end of your published book. A reader magnet is a little bit different because of what you're trying to do with it. And I'm going to go into details about what makes a good reader magnet and what makes a good lead magnet. We're going to talk about that, so don't worry. Lead magnets are what you're putting out there into the world to draw entirely new readers who have no idea who you are, have never read your stuff, and maybe they're interested because they liked your book cover, right? That serves a very different purpose. That's written to a very different audience. And again, a lead magnet is going to be put out for what we call cold traffic. I try not to use a lot of marketing stuff, but this is what these people call that stuff. So I'm trying to give you the terms that they use because I don't have a better word for it. But you'll sometimes hear the terms organic versus inorganic traffic. Organic traffic being somebody who's already read your stuff and is like, wow, I really like them. I want to go read more stuff. Inorganic being like, I don't know. That looks like a good book cover. I'll pick it up and see and give it a try, right? So step 1 in our plan of action is to finish your book. So if you're sitting in this room and you don't have your book done yet, that's step 1. Do not go home and say, Damon Courtney from BookFunnel said that I have to set up a mailing list and do all this procrastination stuff and not finish my book. The first step you're going to do is you're going to finish your book. Now, once you have that book finished, the next step that we're going to do is to write a reader magnet. And now we're going to go into like what makes a great reader magnet. Let's start with short stories. They're quick to write. They can be part of your existing world. There's a little Disney earworm for the rest of you. It works, a short story can also work as a lead magnet. And I'm going to, again, we'll talk a little bit more about the differences between those two. Short stories, 2,000-3,000 words. They don't have to be long. This is not something where you're like, oh, I just finished my book and now Damon from BookFunnel says that I have to write another 100,000 words. Please don't do that. Spend a couple of thousand words, make a great reader magnet that is really enticing, and you don't have to spend a lot of time on it. So the best reader magnet, and again, this is for somebody who's now finished one of your books, right? They've come to join your list because they actually read your book, and they got to the end, and you said, hey, here's this extra thing, this reader magnet, but you don't call it that in your thing. You use flowery language, you're writers. But they're going to get to the end, and this is one of the most effective reader magnets that we see on BookFunnel, which is a bonus chapter. You can call them extended epilogues. You can call them anything you want, but really what it is a short story, 2,000-3,000 words tops. You can easily write a custom reader magnet for every book that you put out so that no one escapes your funnel. If you're writing in romance, for example, well, every romance generally is going to end with a happily ever after, but that doesn't mean that the story is over. The couple has their wonderful kiss, their happily ever after, but what happens a year later when the first baby is born? What happens when they have their wedding a year later? That's your bonus chapter. That's your extended scene. And what that is a really, really highly engaging reader magnet. Because who reads to the end of the book and is like, well, that was a lovely story. You want to find out what happens to the wedding a year later? No, I don't. I don't really, no. Not if they liked it. The beauty of reader magnets like that is they become very self-selecting. If someone gets to the end of your book and they were just sort of meh about it, they're not going to sign up to your list to read more. So which means that when they join your list, because they want your bonus chapter, they want to be there. They loved your book. And you now have that one little point of data when that person signs up. Like, the only reason this person downloaded this bonus chapter is because they read my book, they loved it, and they wanted to read more of it. So they're very attractive to fans, people that love your stuff, people that are already on their journey to becoming a fan or a super fan, but they're not very good to people that are just out there trying to find free books to read. Another bonus, you can reuse your cover. You can take your existing book cover, slap a little red ribbon on it that just says bonus chapter, and you're done. Bonus chapters do not make a good lead magnet. A reader magnet like a bonus chapter is only valuable to someone who's already read your work. There's no point in reading about a wedding about characters that you never engaged with and never had a relationship with. And then prequel novellas. So this is another one. This is one of the most popular reader magnets that we see on BookFunnel. If you're writing in series, romance authors, if you're writing in world, this prequel novella is something that's going to lead into your books. Somebody is going to read this and then immediately want to jump to book one of your series, because if you do your job right, that's where you're going to lead them into. That's right. That's why we call them lead magnets, reader magnets. The nice thing about these is that series readers, if you do write in series, or if you are you're a romance author that writes in world, they always want more. They always want to know more, right? J.K. Rowling was like, I have this whole box that I wrote all these notes about all the different kinds of wands, and people were like, can you publish that? How about a book about wands? Because they always want to know more about the worlds and the characters that they've fallen in love with. So the more that you can give them, the better. They get to the end of your book. Again, we're talking about reader magnets at this point. So they get to the end of book one. I'm a fantasy author, so I use a lot of fantasy author examples. But the same thing applies. They get to the end of book one, and your magnet is find out what happened the first time these two heroes got together for their first adventure and everything went sideways, right? Well, if I liked your books, I want to go back and read more of that series. I want to find out more about these characters that I love. And a prequel novella can work great as a lead magnet too, because it is not specific to what happened in the book that they've already read. It's actually coming before the book that they just finished. So for the readers who've read your books, it's more series information that they can go back and learn. And for somebody who hasn't read any of your books, it's a great start into what your books and what your writing are going to be about. So when they read that prequel novella, they go, and what you want to do with it is, again, it's going to be about 10 to 12,000 words for a novella length. You can also do it with a short story. It's a little harder to do a prequel in a 2,000 word short story. So about a 10,000 word is a really good start. But by the time they read that, if you've done your job right, what the reader has figured out, if they've never heard of you before, is whether or not you are going to be the author for them. How many of you are the kind who can pick up a book and within the first couple chapters go, this one's not for me? Sometimes not because the story is not interesting, but because the writer's style is not one that I enjoy. I'm a fantasy reader. I'll tell you a secret. I don't like Tolkien. I love the movie. I know. Woo! Clutch the pearls! I love the movies. I force my kids to watch them every Father's Day with me, the extended editions. But the books just drag for me. I'm what we call a sword and sorcery fantasy reader, which is just lots of actions and spell flinging, and I don't know why I wiggled like that, but that's how we do it. Your prequel novella is going to give that example of this. If you like this, you're going to like my books because this is who I am. This is the kind of writer that I am, and you should come on this journey with me. So, to sum up, write a reader magnet. Keep it under 12,000 words. You don't need more than that, and in fact, readers are more likely to give you a try if you're an author they've never heard of, if they don't have to commit to reading a lot to figure out whether or not you're the right author for them. And then if you're short on time, go with the prequel novella because you can use it as both the lead magnet to get new readers and the reader magnet to attract organic, warm traffic, right? Okay, the next step you're going to do is you're going to set up your mailing list. I don't personally recommend any one service. Most authors that sign up for BookFunnel use MailerLite. It's an inexpensive service. It's 1,000 free subscribers to start, so you can absolutely get set up for no money at all when you're first starting to build your list. I do recommend this book. This is it's a great book. This is Erica Everest, has the Strategic Author's Guide to MailerLite. This is an absolute nuts and bolts, step-by-step, how, with pictures, lots of pictures, how to set up MailerLite and how to get your newsletter going, and also how to integrate it with BookFunnel. All of that stuff is included in this guide. Again, I have no relationship with Erica. I just think her book is a really great primer. The next thing you're going to do is you're going to write the welcome email. This is the email that people first see when they sign up for your list, the one that says, hey, I'm so glad you're here. I love writing books, make stuff up, you're writers. If you're not sure what to do, this is the book you want to read. This is Newsletter Ninja by Tammy Labrecque. It is hands down the best in the industry. She's in another room, so you're missing out on her talk, but you can probably go watch the recordings later. If you go to that link, which is not currently up on the screen, but we'll be back in a minute, bookfunnel.com/20booksvegas, BookFunnel will buy you a copy of Newsletter Ninja. If you have never read it, go to that link, get a copy. We buy them in bulk from Tammy, and then we hand them out at conferences because it's that good. What Newsletter Ninja is going to teach you is how to talk to readers. It is not a how to set things up. It is not a nuts and bolts guide. It is more, I hesitate to use the word woo-woo, but it's more about how to talk to readers without sounding like a salesperson who's just going, buy my book, buy my book, buy my book. Don't do that. It's not a great way to build super fans and build a fandom. So if you haven't read Newsletter Ninja, please go get a copy from on us and read it. The next thing you're going to do in our list, in our action list, is you're going to add what they call a call to action, which sounds like a fantasy thing, and it actually is. If you read Joseph Campbell's, here's the call to action. What it really is when they get to the end of your book, you want them to do something. You want them to go somewhere. You want them to act and do something. That can be go leave a review. You can encourage them to leave a review. You can encourage them to buy the next book. But the most important thing that you can do, and if you talk to some of the most successful authors here, if you talk to the Joanna Penns and the Mark Dawsons of the world, the number one thing you want to do is drive people to your newsletter sign up. Because if you send them to buy the next book, that's great. You make one sale, but you don't ever have the opportunity to sell them all the rest of your books for the rest of your life. So the call to action is going to be in the back of your book, even before you publish. You want to have these things in place. If you already have books out there, that's okay. We're indies. You can go pull the books, you can edit them, and you can re-upload them. It's a wonderful world. If you don't already have your book published, you want to make sure that that call to action is in the back of the book before you publish the book. And then once you've published, it's time to start finding new readers. So now we've put our book out there into the world. We want to get more people looking at it. We want to get more eyeballs on it so that people will find that we're great writers, that we're exactly the writer that they're looking for, and they can fall in love with us and start becoming fans. So the next step is write a lead magnet if your reader magnet is not going to work as a lead magnet. If you've written a bonus chapter or an extended epilogue, those are not going to work as lead magnets. Just imagine yourself as a reader. Is this a thing that you could read without having read any of your books? If so, then it can make a great lead magnet. If the thing you're reading is the enjoyment of the thing you're reading is entirely dependent on having read the book, then that doesn't make a great lead magnet. So if you've written a reader magnet specifically to attract readers at the end of your books, we're going to write a separate thing now, which is going to be our lead magnet. So that's not on my screen. What makes a great lead magnet? And it is, again, back to short stories. You can absolutely use 2,000-3,000 word short stories as lead magnets. But it's a little different. You want them to lead into or introduce your books in some way. Introduce your characters, the main character that they're going to love when they get to book one. Introduce, if you're writing in romance, find some way to introduce the female or the male protagonist, depending on the point of view that you're writing from, so that they can start to get an idea of, oh, I really like this character. They're fun, or they're funny, or they're serious, or their story is touching, so that when they then move on, that by the time they get to the end of the thing, they're like, I want to read this book. I want to find out more about where these characters or where this world is going. And again, back to what I was talking about, we want to show readers a really good example of your writing, right? This is, if you like this thing, you're going to love my books, because my books are all about this stuff here. So if you read it and you like it, then come with me on this journey, because you're going to really enjoy it. And then you want to make it a complete story. Don't do a cliffhanger. This is not the place for cliffhangers. You want them to read it and feel like they got a full story, but then hopefully you've maybe left a loop open that entices them to go on to read book one. But it should not be the literal, like, hanging from the cliff, by the fingernails and waiting to drop. Readers will feel like you gave them a free thing, but really it wasn't a free thing, because it was just an ad to go buy another thing. You want to make sure that the story is complete. Back to prequel novellas. These work great, and I talked about this when we talked about reader magnets, but these work fantastically as lead magnets as well, because they're going to lead into the book or series that you're already writing. 10,000 words, they get to the end and they go, this is really cool. I'm really liking these characters. I want to go buy the first book so I can find out what's going to happen next. Leave them with a desire to pick up your book. Again, not cliffhanger necessarily, but if there's a little bit of a push, like some part of the reader magnet has an open loop that doesn't get answered, but is going to be answered maybe in even the first couple of chapters of book one, that's a really enticing draw for them to get to the end and go, dang it, that was good. I like that. I think I'm going to have to go pick up book one now. And if you're writing these and you're putting them out into the world, somebody who's got your prequel novella has already signed up for your list. That's how they got it, right? So you want to make sure that at the end of that prequel novella, the very last thing they see when they get to the end of it is, click here to go buy book one from your favorite retailer, because that's the next place. That's the call to action at the end of a lead magnet. That's the next thing we want them to do. We immediately want them to go on and buy the book. They're already on our list. You wouldn't have gotten this lead magnet if you hadn't already joined my list. So this is not about signups now. You're already signed up. Now I want you to go buy the next thing. The other reason novellas are really nice is because they don't require a huge commitment from the readers. I noted on this earlier, but when readers are discovering new authors, they'll usually give you a couple of chapters to decide if you're going to be the one for them. This is basically just putting those first few chapters out in front and saying, here, this is a complete story. If you like this, you're going to like my writing. Don't use bonus chapters or deleted scenes as lead magnets. Again, they're not valuable if they haven't already read the book, if they're not already somewhere along the path to becoming a fan of your writing. Don't use a cheap cover. This is the one thing about having a lead magnet. You can't reuse your existing book cover. I guess you can. It's not going to be a good look. People get confused because two books are side by side and they look exactly the same because they have the same cover. So when you're putting your lead magnet out there into the world, you're going to have to come up with you're going to have to get a second cover, and you want a good one. This is and for oftentimes for readers that are just finding you and have never read your stuff, this is the first time they've ever interacted with you as an author. And you want to always put your best foot forward. You want to make it look like, hey, I am a professional author. These covers are not done in Microsoft Paint. They're good, and because the cover is the first thing that every reader looks at when they're attracted to a book. And so the more attractive the cover, the more attracted they're going to be to your lead magnet. So once you have your lead magnet, you have all these things set up, you've got your book, even if you don't have your book out in the world, but generally you've got your first book published out there in the world, you're going to start looking at BookFunnel group promos. It is the least expensive and fastest way to get your book in front of new readers who are going to start deciding for themselves whether or not you are the author that they want to read next. So group promos, if you go on BookFunnel, if you don't have who has a BookFunnel account? Okay, so a good number of people. If you go on BookFunnel and you click group promos over on the side, what you're going to find is this gigantic board of all of these promos that are currently recruiting, looking for other authors in their genres. And this is important. You're working with other authors in your genre. And the more specific you can be, the better. There will be promos on BookFunnel that are just like romance. Join romance promos. And they'll have 300 books in them. But I can tell you from experience that romance authors generally don't bounce around a lot. If they read Regencies, they read Regencies. And sometimes they might dally a little in contemporary, but they really like their Regencies. Some that read Regency actually prefer Highlander romance. So they're really specific, not only the Regency times, but no, it needs to be set in Scotland and they need to be wearing manly kilts. So if you write Regency romance, look for Regency promos. If you write small town Christian romance, look for promos that are closest to small town Christian promos rather than just broadly romance, right? Because what you're trying to do is you're trying to get in front of readers who've never heard of you, but most importantly, you're trying to get in front of the right readers. So in a group promo, let's say you join with 29 other authors, and we all write small town Christian romance. You find a lovely little promo on BookFunnel, which, no shock, shouldn't be a surprise to anybody, but romance is the largest by a mile. If you look on BookFunnel right now, there are over 400 romance promos that are actively recruiting and looking for other authors. But let's say that we're, as a group, we write small town Christian romance. I found a promo that had 29 other authors, and I join it. So now there are 30 of us. We all write small town Christian romance, and I don't have much of a list. I don't even have a list. I'm just getting started. I have 0 people on my newsletter. But everybody else in that promo, they have a list, or a good portion of them do. And guess what? They're going to send that promo to every person. All 30 are going to send it to whatever size list they have. Some will have gigantic lists. Some will have a few hundred people. Some, like me, will have 0. In the end, we're all sharing in this pool of readers who, what do they love to read? Small town Christian romance. So my book is now getting in front of readers who've never heard of me, but are predetermined to like the kinds of books that I write, because every author in this promo writes the same kinds of books that I write. And even better, I'm getting my book in front of people that not only like the kinds of books that I write, they're the kind of people who read emails from authors and then click on links in them. So they're really the best kind of readers. And you can build, using BookFunnel promos, you can build a small but loyal list very, very quickly. It is not uncommon for an author to join BookFunnel and have several hundred readers on their list within the first month that they're joining promos. There are a lot is going to depend on your genre. If you're writing in very, very small niche genres, you're going to have a harder time finding other authors to join with. But I would encourage you, especially in the beginning, to look for smaller promos that are more closer down to your genre. If you write science fiction, that's great. There are lots of sci-fi promos. But if you write space opera, that's a little different. So if you're looking for space opera promos, you're going to find people that are a little closer to your genre than just broadly science fiction. Same goes for military science fiction. That's more of a subsect of science fiction. So if you can find a military sci-fi promo, all of those authors are going to be closer to your books, which means their readers are closer to the books that you write. The next thing you're going to do, once you've built up a little bit of a list, is we have a feature on BookFunnel called author swaps. Now, an author swap is really the same thing as a group promo except one-on-one. So rather than joining in a promo with 30 other authors, it's just my book and your book. And your book and my book have the same kinds of readers. Listen, I'll share your book with my list if you share my book with your list. We swap, right? But you're looking for authors that are working specifically in your genre. You want to do a little bit of vetting, right? So we want to find the right authors for your books. Look at their, sometimes sometimes you can tell by the book cover. Let's say I do write small, what is the word? I write sweet romance, which means there's no spicy stuff. So I write sweet romance. And sometimes you can look at the cover and tell immediately, this is spicy. This book's a little spicy. So I don't want to send that to my readers. My readers appreciate sweet romance. Sometimes the cover is not enough to tell you, and you have to open it up and look at it. Well, BookFunnel allows you to open the books that the other author is promoting and read it a little bit and go, ooh, this is a little too spicy for my readers. Or even if the scenes aren't spicy, there's a lot of curse words. My readers are not going to appreciate this. And when you're in a group promo, readers are not going to expect that you've read all 30 books by the authors that you're currently promoting in this group. But when you're doing author swaps on a one-on-one kind of basis, it's not that you're personally recommending their book, but you are a little bit careful with the kinds of books that you recommend. So you want to be more selective because a one-on-one author swap is going to be a little bit more personal than something where you're joining in with a larger promo. And for author swaps, you're going to need a little bit of a list, even if it's small, to get started. This is why we recommend you start with group promos, not jump right into author swaps. When you're swapping individually, the other author is going to expect that you're at least going to put your book out there in front of a few people that they can also find new readers too, right? It's not greedy to say that if I share your book, that I want you to share my book so that we can all mutually benefit. But if you join group promos and you do a few of those first, you're going to build up a small but loyal list to get started on before you move on to author swaps. So that thing that I just said, I'm often fond of saying and then remembering I had a slide that said that whole thing. So start marketing with group promos so that you can perfect your funnel, right? What you're going to find out once you start joining promos is in a promo, BookFunnel will tell you how many people clicked on your book cover and then how many people decided to claim a copy of your book. If those two numbers are wide apart, then your book cover, your blurb, your tagline, your title, something is not working. If 300 people clicked on your book cover, they liked your cover. But if they clicked on your book cover and then out of 300, only 10 decided to take a copy of your free book, then your tagline and the rest of your text, your book description, is not working for you. You can also look at the average number of clicks in the promo. So if you're looking at a promo and the average author is getting 300 clicks on their cover and you've got 20, your book cover is not working very well for you. So you can use these group promos as a way to perfect your funnel and know that your book is working, your cover's working, your tagline's working, everything is working before you start getting into doing paid promotions. I am not here to teach you about paid promotions. I just want to kind of give you, once your funnel is working well and you're funneling readers onto your list, paid promotions is sort of the next level. But I'm not going to spend a ton of time on them. I just want to briefly mention them. So there are paid promotion services out there. A lot of the vendors are here today if you want to go talk to them. Free Booksy, Bargain Booksy, Hello Books, all of those are owned by Written Word Media. They are here today. They have a booth out there if you want to go and talk with them. Book Barbarian is one that's specific to fantasy and science fiction. The Fussy Librarian is one that will do promos. All of these promos are not terribly expensive. You can get started with just a little bit amount of money, but you really don't want to do that until you know that your funnel is, all the parts of your funnel are working well and that readers are responding to what you're putting out there into the world. But I do want to mention that once you have all that stuff working, the next step is going to be looking into paid promotions. I have no affiliation with any of these services. BookFunnel doesn't do paid promotions. All of our stuff, everything we do is part of your BookFunnel account. And then finally, once you're kind of feel like you've done some paid promotions and you're on that, then you're going to kind of move on to ads. Again, I am not encouraging you to go do ads, but this is the next step once you get here. Really, there are three major platforms: Facebook ads, Amazon ads, and BookBub ads. You can run Google advertising. I have not found anyone who's found it to be terribly successful for selling books, but it is out there. But the thing I want you to remember is, until you have at least 3 books out, you shouldn't be looking at any of these ads or anything like this. This is a great way to light your money on fire. And like, if you know, it's a proposition that works really well when you have more books to sell someone, right? So if I can get you to book 1, there's going to be a read through to book 2. Typically, it is about 50%. 50% of people who read book 1 will go on to read book 2. If they like book 2, they get to the end. There's usually greater than 85% carry through from book 2 to book 3. Once a reader has read 3 books, there's 95% plus read through the entire rest of the series. Anybody read the Dresden Files? But they're just going on forever. But it doesn't matter. People are like, woo, new Dresden book, right? So that's ultimately what you want, but you need to get them from book 1 to book 2 to book 3, and there is going to be some drop off after that. So the more books that you have in your series, the more books that you have to sell is going to multiply your advertising dollars. Every dollar you spend, if you spend $1 and then they go read book 1 and then there's no other books for them to read, that's it. You spent the $1, you got to read, and that was it. They were done. Hopefully you'd want to spend that $1 and then they buy book 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now we've multiplied that $1 5 times because they went on to buy 5 books. So again, I'm not going to talk a lot about this. I do just want to kind of give you the path of once you get your book marketing set up, these are the sort of next level steps. We rolled backwards somehow. Okay, and then once you kind of got most of this stuff going, you're going to write the next book. The best advertising for your current book is the next book. Always, 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 as an author, always be writing the next book. Always be working on getting more content out there into the world. It doesn't have to be fast. I know that you see, some of you will see the other authors here who are writing like a book a week and they're just publishing them all, and then I published 87 books last year. Like, We can't all be those people. You don't need to be all those people. And in fact, I would argue that it is better to use these kinds of techniques to build a super fandom if you're not going to be one of those authors who's writing a book every 2 months or every month or something like that. Because super fans will buy your books no matter how fast you write them. In fact, I have authors that were indie 10 years ago when I first started reading that then went to trad pubbing, and now I'm just pissed because they only put out 1 book a year. They used to be a 4-book-a-year author when they were indies, and now they're a straight 1 book a year. And as a reader, that's just frustrating because I want more books from you. I want more. And that's where we want to go. So if you're not the authors who can just crank them out, you are much better off writing at your own pace, writing great books, and then getting people to move down this path from being a casual reader who just picked up your book and was like, that was a good book, to somebody who's like, I really like this writer, to hell yeah, I'm going to buy everything that they write, right? But always write the next book. And then finally, I've got 5 minutes left because we started a little bit late. Finally, once you start building this list, unfortunately, you're going to have to talk to your readers. I know. At least once per month. You don't have to do more than that. Anything more than about once per week, you're gonna turn off some readers. You might make some of them really happy, but you're gonna turn off some. But at least once per month, you need to email the readers on this list that you're building and just talk about your books, let them know what you're doing, let them know you have a new book out. Again, go read Newsletter Ninja. It's all about how to talk without sounding like you're constantly selling stuff to people. And there is an art to that because we're authors. I want to sell you my books. I want you to read them. I want you to love them. But I don't want to sound like I'm smarmy and salesy. Newsletter Ninja's your ticket for that. Don't just talk about the next book. If you are a slower writer, please don't email every month and say, I'm still working on the next book, I'm still working on the next book, I'm still working on the next book. George R. R. Martin's been doing that for a decade, and we don't like it. We don't appreciate it. So don't do that. Find something else that you can talk about. If you have joined another group promo with other authors, you can say, you can totally drop in there that I'm still working on the next book. It's coming along great. Hey, I joined this great promo with 30 other Christian romance authors. I thought you guys would really love these books. Check them out if you're looking for some new reads. And if you really don't know what to do, 3 minutes, 48 seconds. If you really don't know, write a short story. Write them a short story and just say, hey guys, I'm still working on the next book. The thing that I just told you not to. I'm still working on the next book, but I wrote this fun short story. I know all of you love this side character X. I decided to write a fun short story with them because I thought they were really funny. I thought you guys would love it. Here, you can have it for free, right? And all of that is, again, trying to move the reader down the line from being a casual reader to a fan to a super fan. Because super fans is what we all want. Super fans is how you last in this industry. And if nothing else works, cat pictures. Yep. See? It worked. I love Colby. So to wrap up really quick, in 2 minutes and 53 seconds that I have left, we're going to go back over the plan of action. Finish your book. Damon from BookFunnel said, finish your book first. Write a reader magnet. Set up your mailing list. Check out Erica Everest's book if you're not sure how to do that. It's a couple bucks on Amazon. Write a welcome email. Get a copy of Newsletter Ninja from that link up there if you're not sure how to do that. BookFunnel will buy you a copy. Go find Tammy Lebrecht out there and ask her if you have questions. She's a wonderful human being, one of my favorite people in the world. Put a call to action in the back of your books. Before you publish, or if you've already published, edit your books and put that call to action in the back of your books to get readers to your newsletter. Write a lead magnet, or if your reader magnet will work as a lead magnet as well, great, skip that step, you're already done. You're going to get a BookFunnel account. Using that link up there, you can get a half off your first year by signing up for BookFunnel. We're really inexpensive. We always have been. We haven't raised our prices in 8 years because I'm an indie author too, and I believe that our tools should be available to everybody out there. Join group promos. It's right over there on the left nav on your dashboard. It says group promos. Join some of those. Look for authors and look for group promos that are going to work in your genres. And then once you've built up something of a list, you're going to look for author swaps, other individual authors, because there are a lot of authors on BookFunnel that will use individual swaps that don't actually join in the group promos. They want that more personal touch with their readers. They don't like sending them 50 books to check out. They want to recommend one book that they can say, I talked with this author, I met with them, I really like them, I think you're going to like their books. But you're going to need to build a little bit of a list using promos, group promos first. And then finally, if you get 2 or more books, preferably if you have 3 to 5 or more, start looking into paid advertising opportunities as a further way to grow your list and get your books in front of new readers. I have this slide that says questions, but the truth is we have 1 minute left. So I will take one question at the mic if someone has one. If not, I will stand here and out there, and I will answer any and all questions until my next talk at 1:15 in the next room.
Who can set up the promos, the group promos?
Everybody. So BookFunnel does not set up the promos. Every promo that you find on BookFunnel is organized by an author out there just like you. So all the promos on BookFunnel are organized by fellow authors. And I encourage you to look at them and find the right ones. Read the requirements. If they say no man chest and your cover has man chest, don't submit your book. If your book is science fiction, don't submit it to that sweet Christian romance promo. Find the ones that work the best for you. The organizers are usually really clear with their requirements, and they're all really, really accepting and really friendly to new authors who are just starting out. So give that a try. 15 seconds to go. Thank you, everybody, for coming. I appreciate it.